Today, I'm gonna teach you how to make the perfect tavern style pizza at home in your own kitchen. No fluff, no BS, 2 hours or less guaranteed. If you follow this recipe exactly how I do it, there's no way you can mess it up. I'm not using any fancy cooking tools. I'm not using any special cooking appliances. I'm only using what's already in my house. In fact, the igniter in my oven went out, so we're gonna cook this thing in my toaster oven. So starting with the ingredients, here's everything you need. Bread flour, vegetable oil, or other oil of your choice. Cornmeal, a large mixing bowl, salt, 8 ounces tomato sauce, 6 ounces tomato paste, sugar, garlic powder, onion powder, dried oregano, dried basil, black pepper, instant yeast, and a beer of your choice. Oh my gosh, I just knocked that over. It also helps to have a scale and some spare cups to measure everything out. We're gonna start with 50 grams of water. And now we're gonna put this in the microwave for 15 seconds. Next, we're gonna do 50 grams of your favorite beer. Now this is a good time to mention that if you're using something more flavorful like an IPA, it's actually not very helpful. You want something more just like a lager or an ale. Next, we're gonna do 200 grams of bread flour. Then we're gonna add in 1 packet of instant rise yeast. Then we're gonna do half a tablespoon of salt. Then I'm gonna mix in 2 packets of sugar. And the reason I use packets is because I suck at measuring and math was not my strong suit, so this just makes it easier. Next, we're gonna pour in our beer. Then we're gonna pour in our water. Then I'm gonna take a spatula and just mix it around until it becomes a single unit. Once you see it start to become a shaggy dough like this, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of oil. Once you get to this point where it's a bunch of flakes and it's not really sticking together, this is where we're gonna knead it by hand. It can be kind of tricky getting everything stuck together at first. This is going to be a very shaggy dough. I've personally noticed that doing the ball method helps a ton with super dry doughs like this. And if you don't know what that method is, it's not going straight to kneading. It's about scooping up particles and pressing them in and just kind of pushing them around until they're absorbed. And that's good enough for me. So here's what we're gonna do now. I'm just gonna sit here and knead it and press it until it becomes a nice, perfect, simple ball. And that can take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. This does not need to pass the window test because this dough is gonna be too dry to do that. Once your dough is about done being kneaded, it should look something like this, where it's kind of like one big unit. And even with seams, it still behaves like one piece. At this point, your dough is done. I'll start to roll it in a ball on the counter, something like this. And then I'll stretch it, fold it, and fold it again until it becomes a nice little ball. And I'm just pressing it at the bottom like that. And I'll roll it out, and there we have it. Our perfect little pizza dough ball. I'm gonna drizzle just a little bit of oil in the bottom of the bowl. Just a little bit, enough to coat the bottom. And you might be wondering, what about those shag pieces of dough in there? Who cares? It's all gonna be a part of the pizza anyway. Now I'm just gonna put that dough right in the center of the bowl, and I'm gonna get some cling wrap to cover on top of it. Now that our dough is done and it's wrapped, we're gonna let it rise and rest for 45 minutes. What are you gonna do with 45 minutes? Well, you could mow the lawn, do the dishes, or if you're anything like me, you could just play Donkey Kong Country. Then again, that game's been pissing me off, so I don't know, maybe don't do that. All right, now that it's been 45 minutes, we're gonna take our dough out and we're just gonna plop it down here on the table. Now, as you can see, it hasn't risen much, but it's risen exactly how we need it to for this type of pizza. This is where we bring out our roller and our pan. For this recipe, I'm using a 14-inch stainless steel pan. So from here, I'm just gonna press it out on one side to open it up. Then I'm gonna rotate it, and we're gonna open this dough until we get close to a circle. Now, once you've got your pizza thin enough that your whole pan can fit on top, you're gonna put this pan right on top of it, just like that. Take a kitchen knife or any sort of blade that you have that's sharp enough to cut around the edges, and you're gonna cut all this extra off. Then you're gonna take the pan back up off the pizza. We're gonna put the pan on the side, and we're gonna put just a little bit, just a splash of oil, just enough that you can take a paper towel and wipe it all the way around the inside of the pan. Once you've got your pan lightly oiled, we're going to take some cornmeal and we're going to lightly sprinkle the whole bottom of this pan. Now to get this dough into this pan, we're actually going to fold it. So I'm going to pull up this edge very gently. We're going to fold it in half, and then we're going to fold it in half again. I'm going to take up this whole dough, place it in the pan, and then we're going to unfold it just to make sure that nothing gets damaged along the way. Make sure that it gets as close to the edges of this pan as possible without ripping or getting any thin spots. That's good enough for me. Even if you've got some little open spaces around the edges, it's totally cool. Now that our dough is done being put in the pan, we're gonna preheat our oven to 450 degrees. And while we let this dough rise in the pan, we're gonna push it off to the side and we're gonna make our sauce. We're gonna start with our tomato sauce and our tomato paste. I'm gonna grab a spoon for mixing. I'm gonna start with the sauce, open up the can. Then we're gonna do our tomato paste. And we're gonna mix the two together. I am using the whole cans of both. Next, we're gonna do a half teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of garlic powder, a half teaspoon of onion powder, a half teaspoon of oregano, a half tablespoon of basil, and a couple good cracks of black pepper. I usually do 5 to 6 twists. Then we're gonna mix this all up until it becomes homogeneous. Now, if you're anything like me, you know that that thick sauce is where it's at. Now, before we go putting sauce and toppings on the pizza, we have a few things to do first. Most importantly is to clean up the mess I just made. But next, we're gonna aerate the crust by taking a fork and we're gonna punch a bunch of holes into the dough because we don't want this dough to get big and fluffy, but we also want it to be cooked all the way through. Now that our oven has had time to preheat, we're gonna take this and we're gonna par bake it for 3 to 4 minutes tops. The reason we do that is because in a home oven, it's kind of hard for these things to cook all the way through, especially when you're cooking them in a pan. So this just ensures that the crust is cooked all the way through. So we're just gonna take this pizza and we're gonna plop it right into my toaster oven. All right, it's been exactly 3 minutes since I put this in. And we're gonna put this out here on the counter. Now, the reason I put some paper towels down is because we have cheap counters, and if I don't put some sort of protection down, they're gonna burn. As you can see, after 3 minutes, we've already started to get little bubbles. That's a good thing. Now, the reason we par baked is to make sure that the bottom of the crust gets a good char, but also it saves us the step of adding oil before the sauce so that the sauce doesn't make the crust soggy. So from here, I'm gonna put a couple good dollops of sauce right in the middle of the pie. I like to do a nice little circle motion just to make sure that it's spread out evenly throughout the whole thing. And no, it's not gonna be a perfect circle, and if that bothers you, then this is the wrong tutorial. This thing's gonna taste great. Who cares if it's a perfect circle? Now, once you've gotten your sauce leveled all the way out, here's a serious pro tip. You're gonna bring out your Parmesan cheese or this fake grated whatever this is, and you're gonna put it down before you put your actual cheese down. This keeps the Parmesan from getting burnt, but it also adds more of a flavor and creates a barrier between this cheese and your regular cheese. Now, me personally, I use mozzarella and provolone. And I like to start with just a nice sprinkle just to make sure that we've got a little bit of cheese covering every part of the pizza. If you're adding a lot of toppings, this is where you would stop and then add your toppings. But for me, I'm just doing half cheese, half pepperoni. So I do need some more cheese just to kind of even out the playing field. Now I'm gonna do a half cheese, half pepperoni because I wanna be able to taste test the two of them together. So I'm gonna lay down my pepperonis as thick as I can. Now that I've got my pepperonis on, I'm actually gonna do a little bit of more Parmesan just on top of the pepperonis because I like the salty, cheesy flavor that it adds by the time it's done baking. Now this is the tricky part because everybody's oven is different. So you're gonna have to keep a close eye on it and just wait for the cheese to get golden brown. It's usually anywhere between 12 and 20 minutes. Now I know that's a huge window, but it depends on your oven. So let the cheese tell you when the pizza is done. Now I'm gonna put it in for 12 minutes and then I'm gonna come back and take a peek at it. All right, for me it's been exactly 15 minutes, so I'm gonna take this pizza out, I'm gonna place it back on the counter, and now I'm gonna transfer this pizza to a couple wire racks so that it can aerate for a couple of minutes and make sure that it doesn't get soggy on the bottom. Now I'm gonna transfer this pizza to a cutting board, and this is a tavern pizza, so we gotta do party style crust where we cut it into squares. And now all that's left to do is to taste it and see what it's like. I'll start with these tiny little corner slices because these are my favorite ones. Oh my God. Let's go in for another one. It is amazing at the difference it makes when you make this at home. That's crazy. So there you have it. There's how to make a tavern style pizza at home. And I don't feel like there's anything left to say. It's just awesome. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and a comment down below. If not, nothing personal. I don't really give a shit. Now, not to be rude, but I got some more Donkey Kong Country to play, so I'll see you in the next one.